Hi there, I'm Construction Gamer. In today's episode I'm going to show you how to build grade separated or flying junctions, much like the one we're just passing under now. So basically what this does is this just removes conflicts from when two railways are joining together, and it just stops trains that are arriving from a different railway holding up trains which are on our main line, which obviously can create backlogs and things like that and bottlenecks. So yeah, it's just a really good way of removing conflicts and making our railways much more efficient. I'm going to make three different types of grade separated or flying junction in this episode. I'm going to do a vanilla one just in case that you haven't got any mods available to you. I'm aware that console players are finally going to be able to get hold of this game, so I'm not sure what the sort of mods will be available, if at all. So I will do a completely vanilla one. I'll be making reference in this to shift, unfortunately, because I don't know what the controls is on console, but basically to raise and lower tracks on my keyboard I use page up and page down, which basically lifts and lowers the track, and then I hold shift, which gives us those smaller movements. I'm assuming there is some equivalent to shift on your controller, which gives you those really small movements. That's quite important. We will be using shift or the equivalent of quite a lot during this tutorial. So let's get on and build ourselves a grade separated junction. So we've got let's just put in two tracks. So this is our, let's call this our main line, something a bit like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and hold page up, or we're going to raise and lower our tracks rather, and then we're just going to go straight across like that. And then I'm going to start holding shift and page up at the same time just to get the lowest possible bridge possible. Said that twice, never mind. Just to get the lowest possible bridge on the over the railway. It's not like a huge thing, but it just helps to kind of shrink down the sizes of our junctions. Now I would suggest probably not using the stone wall for this. I mean, if you are building an older, I think it's probably from about the 1920s that these are available till. I mean, you can do it, it just looks a bit ugly. I would suggest you probably want to be using something like the truss girder bridge here, which gives us a much larger span, something a bit like that. And then what we want to do is basically the angle of the approaching railway to the railway that we're crossing wants to be as shallow as possible. So these, let's just get that extended out, doesn't really matter, it's colliding at the minute. You want this angle and this angle to be as shallow as possible, and that's important to make sure that the actual grade separated junction is as fast as physically possible. But because we are using a vanilla bridge, we do have a slight issue of pillars. So what you just need to do is you just need to move this around. I mean, I'm using a mouse, which makes it a little bit easier, but I left click on this circle here and then just basically move this around until I'm happy with its location. I don't want it there because I don't want the pillar fouling my line. That just looks rubbish. We want something a bit like that. Let's just check the other side, that's all fine, and then we're going to accept that. And then we want to bring the track in here, probably on embankments at this point. I think I just need to extend this track out a little bit. Right, so this angle is important because obviously this track is coming down and we're going to have a curve in order for the track to come from here down to here, and you can see we're only achieving 70. We can make this as fast as we want, but it just means that our junction gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously it just takes up more space. So I would suggest something a little bit like that. Try and bring that down as fast as physically possible. And this is where the height of the bridge is important as well, because we want to bring this track down as fast as physically possible into the side of the railway that we're joining. That is quite ugly, and yeah, we've got a bit of ugliness going on there. So what I would tend to do is, you can do it two ways. You can just snap it straight to the side, that's probably easier, and then put a switch in, if it'll let me switch, something like that. What are we getting? 70 miles per hour. That's perfectly reasonable. That's, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Or we can do it another way. So if I go to over here, if I bring my track out, now it will snap straight. So basically on the keyboard on PC, you hold shift in order to stop that snapper. You can see there we've got full control over it. We want a nice high speed switch, high speed turnout, and then we just want to raise lower that. Probably might just extend it out a little bit further. Just want to make sure that there's no ballast over the rails or anything like that, any ugly creases like that. We can just try and minimize as much as possible. Something a bit like that. I think I'm happy, and then we can just join this in, hopefully, to that. So that's given us about 70 miles per hour, and then this bit obviously goes off to the adjoining track somewhere over here, and then we want another piece of railway coming in. This probably just can go straight into the side, can it? Yes, it can. Something a bit like that. So my train's going to be driving on the left because I'm from Britain and it's difficult for me to think of trains driving on the right. So basically we want a couple of signals. So the train's going to be coming down this way. This is perfectly applicable to trains driving on the right. You just have to switch it round. But we want a one-way signal there and one there, and that's it. So basically they've just got the two trains here. So you can see now, if I get up an asset, my little train. So if I've got a train coming down here, wants to join the line, it's not conflicting with this like path here. So basically these trains can go all the way down here without any conflicts, and it just makes the railway a heck of a lot more efficient. The other signal we want is just one there, and then you probably want to put another few signals in. I have done tutorials on signaling. If you haven't watched those already, I'll leave a link to those in the description below. So I've done very basic signaling in one episode, and then I've done 4-track mainline signaling in another episode, which is this here basically. So I won't go over signaling too much, but basically that is the basic signal arrangement you're probably going to want to have for your grade separated junction. Completely vanilla other than the signals, but the signals really aren't important. They're just for looks more than anything, but we just want to make sure we're not fouling anything like so. The next one is I'm going to be using a slightly different mod. So this, again, we just want to put in 2 more tracks along here. This one, we just want to set the height again. So I want to trial and error. There are different mods if you do have mods available to you, like build with collision and things like that, and zero height bridge, but I'm just not using those in today's episode. But I am going to be using this mod here, which is the iron bridge. It is the exact same as the vanilla bridge, but it has no truss along the side, and it just looks really clean and cool. But this comes in a different variety as well. So we've got the one with pillars, and then we've got the one without pillars. And what this allows us to do is to stretch that angle out even further. You might have to hold shift just to give that as flat of an angle as physically possible, and then that just allows us to bring this track down and gives us a nice, I've said that's pretty slow. Might have to do this in 2 bits. Bring it down as quickly as physically possible. Yeah, let's aim for 90, and then can that just go straight into the side? No. I wouldn't be happy with that, so I'm going to do the same again. We're just going to put a switch in, so left click on the track, and then just holding shift just to force that not to snap, and then just have it down, up and down, and then just connect that in to that. That should be fast. So you can see already we've extended that right out, and it's given us a much faster we just take the speeds of this, so yeah, 90 miles per hour compared to 70, and obviously with grade separated junctions, the faster the better, because you just want these trains which are joining the track to just get out the way as quickly as possible, which obviously if you have a slow junction, trains have to slow down, so you want your junction to be as fast as physically possible. Same with this approaching track here, so we've got 104 miles per hour, which is pretty decent. And then can I just connect that straight into there? I can. Let's just make sure the junction looks nice and flat. It does. Let's just compare the speeds on that. So we've got 100, 90 is the slowest, but on here the slowest is 72. So the train's going to have to slow down a little bit and will be in the way of the preceding train coming down here for a little bit longer. The only thing with this is it does look a little bit unrealistic. The span is absolutely enormous, and I probably wouldn't be happy with that. So what I would tend to do is I would use another mod, which is the retaining wall assets mod. Comes in 2 varieties, collision on, collision off. I use collision off. That just means I can place this anywhere without it colliding. And then I'm going to do nice clean concrete, -18. And then this will want to snap to the railway, but you can, if you're just very careful, just get it to the not snap if you're in the right sort of place. So we want to be in the center of the track. I'm just going to spin this around. I'm using M and N on the keyboard on PC in combination with shift just to give us those micro movements. I'm using page down just to shift that down below the track, something a bit like that. And then we again just spin this round until it's away from your cursor, and then just have that into there. Just make sure that's not fouling the track. It's not. It's just makes it look a little bit more realistic, makes that span look a little bit less. And then I'd probably end up putting a couple of these on here as well as abutments just to make it look a little bit tidier, something like that. So we've got a nice high speed flying junction here. And again, the signaling is all exactly the same. So we want a signal here, and then just a signal before the switch. Then probably a little bit of a block section going on here and here. Yeah, but that's it. So it doesn't look too different from that one, too dissimilar, but it just gives us a much higher speed on that junction. Okie dokie, so we're getting a little bit more advanced now with the next one. We're going to be using another mod, which is actually just called the Flying Junction mod, which is this one here. It won't look like this when you kind of click on it for the first time. So we're going to go, if you've subscribed to this mod, you go to track instructions and you'll have this big box here, which should probably look something a bit more like, let's just try and reset this. I was just kind of demonstrating before and just practicing. No, it's not going to look like that. Probably going to look something like that. Okie dokie. But we do want, again, we want a nice flat angle on the approach. What I'll do for this is I'm going to demonstrate a line. So the number of, we'll scroll to the bottom first. We'll go to number of upper tracks. So the upper tracks is the track at the top. I'm going to go to 1. Lower tracks, we're going to do actually a 4-track main line below it, something a bit like that. High speed tracks, if you've got modded tracks selected or subscribed to, they will be displayed in this drop down menu. So if you've got wireless tracks or some other types of tracks, they will be displayed here. Catenary, now I think you can electrify this once you've placed it, but if you do, the catenary masts won't be displayed, they won't be erected. So if you know that you're going to have to electrify this railway at some point, then I would probably suggest having catenary switched on. Otherwise, you're going to have to rebuild this, because I don't think once you've placed it, you can configure... No, you can't configure the... Can you get rid of the track? No, you can't. I mean, you can add tracks, but it doesn't work. So yeah, I would suggest, if you know your line is going to be electrified eventually, or is at the minute, I would suggest having catenary switched on, just to make life easier for yourself. And then we want the height. Now you can see here it's set at 8. 8 is the very minimum, unless you're using build with collision mod, is the very lowest that you're going to be able to build. It will go all the way down to 6, but it just won't let you build it without an additional mod. I should also point out as well, this does need shader enhancer, which is a dependency. It doesn't break the mod as such, it just makes it look rubbish. It's to do with the shading and things like that, and the colour, so you will need that mod. So we're going to set that to 8. But you can see here we've got the catenary masts poking through the top. So if you're having catenary, you're going to have that at 9 meters, something a bit like that. But I'm not going to be having catenary today, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to set it to 8. And then what we want to do is go back up to, so we want to go back up to the top here. We want to adjust our crossing angle. You can get some pretty extreme angles on this if you look at that, but it might not let you build it if you do. So you've got something a bit like really extreme angle. I wouldn't probably build an angle such like that. I'd probably bring it right. Actually, no. Well, that's what I'll just show you as well. You can switch it round. I'm playing with the radius there. That's the wrong one. The crossing angle. So you've got minus, which is that direction, and then you've got plus, just switches the orientation. We want to be using plus. I think we want to be down to about 20, no, maybe even 15. But what we can do, what I was playing with before, is the upper track radius. So we can put a curve on it. Again, there is an upper limit to the curve that you can put on it. So you can see there we've got a nice curve. You just see that there. You can actually do that on the lower radius as well, but I just tend to do the upper curve if I'm doing a junction such as this. So we've got, I don't know what sort of speed that's going to be. I'm just going to, let's just chuck that in, and will it give us a speed rating for that? 80. So I probably might want to think about reducing that curve. So maybe 5. Yeah, a curve is handy because it just allows us to shrink down the size of the grade separated junction. Gets us part of this curve done as we're crossing the railway, basically, but obviously we want a reasonable speed. So let's 120 miles per hour. I will take that. That's reasonable, I think. That was the crossing angle of, not crossing angle rather. So I have, for reference, a crossing angle of 15.5 and an upper track radius of minus 645. Maybe let's just take that up to 695. Place that down, something a bit like that. Let's just take a look. What speed that's given us? 126 miles per hour, which is, I think that's a decent speed. Right, next thing is we want to put some tracks on. So this is a 4-track main line we're crossing now. I probably should also say that it doesn't matter if this track crosses above or below these tracks, but this is just an easier way of doing things. You can do it where the track is underneath and then you just build a bridge over it, but I just find it easier to build a junction like this, and that's why I've demonstrated it. And let's just chuck in 4 tracks like so, and then I'm just going to throw in this track here, trying to make sure we've got a reasonable speed. Can I just throw it straight into the side? No, I can't. So we are just going to have to do it bit by bit. We just want to make sure. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll do this switch first. So again, like we did before, holding shift just to make it stop snapping, and then just put that on, hit the tick, and then can I just put you straight into there? I can, but it's not particularly fast. I just want it to be a little bit faster. Might just have to do it in 2 parts. I would like 100 miles per hour throughout. And then obviously this track wants to go off somewhere like so, and then again just this second piece of track coming into the side like so, and then just one last little bit of track. Maybe do the same again, holding shift to stop it snapping, and then just have that going into there, something a bit like that. Okie dokie, so we've built our junction. The last thing I just wanted to show you really quickly was, obviously we've got a 4-track mainline here. I said before I have done a tutorial on 4-track mainline, so I'm not going to go into like the signaling in any detail, but during that tutorial I did talk about like up down orientation. So basically what that means is you've got train like 2 pairs of tracks side by side like this. So if we've got a railway like this, usually the tracks in the middle are your express tracks for your fast trains that aren't stopping, or you know, you don't want them to stop very much. But let's say a train coming in from this track here does want to go onto your express track. All you need to do is just put a switch in. Obviously it wants to be as fast as physically possible, so 100 miles per hour will probably do the trick. And again, you're going to need another switch there like so. So if the train's coming down the track here, we can switch onto here and then come off. It does introduce a little bit of a conflict, but obviously not anywhere near as bad as if this track just crossed all 4 of the lines. For the signaling on this, you're going to want to signal there, and then one there, and then one last one here. And then on the approach, you're just going to want a signal there and there. It's pretty straightforward. So you can see here the track, the trains coming off can just go on and then off up like that onto that track. And then you may want to think about putting in, using my words today, you might want to think about putting in another block section, something like that. But if you're not 100% sure what block sections are or what I'm talking about, I would suggest watching that basics tutorial that I did a couple of episodes back. So there we are, that's the 3 types of junctions. We've got the completely vanilla grade separated junction like so. You know, it is completely possible to build a grade separated junction with vanilla without any mods, and this will improve the efficiency of your railway, particularly if you've got lots of trains. You know, it just removes that conflict. We've got a slightly modded one here which gives us a little bit of a better speed, and then we've got this one here which is a little bit faster still. The slowest we go is 103. With a little bit of playing around we could probably improve that, but you can see there like the size difference. I think they're all pretty much, this is maybe a little bit more compact than the vanilla one, but you can see the crossing angle and the curve of this just makes all the difference with the compactness of the grade separated junction, because you know, you can achieve some quite high speeds, but you might have to double the length, and if you're playing on a small map, then that is going to take up a lot of space. But that's the basics. That's the 4 grade separated or flying junctions that you can create. You can create lots of different varieties. There's hundreds of different ways that you could probably build one of these, but this is the most straightforward way of doing it. So there we are. I think I'll leave it there for today. Say until next time. Bye bye.